Hello, Nick Westwood here, councillor at City of Marion again. Finally, sorry I haven't put on more videos on YouTube. Anyway, I'm from the Southern Hills ward, and greetings to all the residents of Southern Hills ward, which is Shiner Park, Trot Park, and part of Seaview Downs in South Australia here. In particular, I'd like to speak today on the exciting state elections that we're about to have, state government elections, which is coming up in March. And of course, we're right into the campaigns, I should say. In particular, I'd like to mention that first off, I am a member of Greens, so I'll say that straight off. I'm not one-eyed, though. If there was someone else had some good ideas, good policies, I'd have to acknowledge that in some way or agree with that. But it just depends on the individual parties. But Greens tend to have the policies that I do agree with, and I have made some contribution in that area occasionally. Right, so in particular regarding the election coming up, I would like to see a hung parliament, which is a parliament where no one party can rule in its own right. They have a number of parties would have to come into a coalition to govern, and I think it would be more favourable to the people of the state if something like Labor Party, Greens and SA Best were to get together and form a coalition if there was an opportunity to do that. But of course, who knows, one of the major parties may end up with a total majority or a big enough majority to rule in its own right, but I'd hope not. Now, the reason being, of course, that if there is a hung parliament, the debates have to take place in the parliament and not in behind closed doors in the back rooms, which is what happens mostly when one party or the other can rule in its own right. So if there was a combination of, let's say, Greens, Labor, SA Best, I believe that we'd come up with very good policies. I'm not one of the candidates, though, but I would have to support that kind of arrangement because I think that we would come up with some very sensible legislation, sensible way of dealing with things within the state for the people. And I certainly wouldn't agree with any more privatisation. And if anything, I'd prefer to see some of the privatised services back in government hands. We have to remember that the people of the government is representative of the people, and the people own certain things within our community, and the essential services should be some of the things that the people own. So so that's a side issue there on privatisation. So so basically, I would like to see a hung parliament. I'd like to see also, or I would have to defend as a side issue also, Nick Xenophon's idea of not eliminating all poker machines in one go. I think that would be very destabilising to our finances in the state, even though we should not be depending on poker machine revenue in our taxes, but we are, unfortunately, as I understand it, and if that was to cease immediately, there'd be too much of a rocking of the boat for state finances, but also, of course, a lot of people do depend on pokies for their jobs, and that would be rather catastrophic for a lot of people to suddenly eliminate all the pokies in the state. So slow and steady, steady is the way. Reduce them. I believe in reduction is a good idea. So reducing the pokies, I think, is the wisest way to go steadily over a reasonable time period. Okay. Right. So I hope for a hung parliament, and I agree with not getting rid of all the pokies at the one time. And I hope you all vote wisely and look out for me at the polling booths. Okay, but as I said, I'm not a candidate, but I do support the Greens in particular. I am a member, but I've been a member of a few parties, well, mainly Australian Democrats and the Greens, since I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, let's say. But I think we should all exercise our right to vote. It's a right and a privilege, and we should exercise that and make sure that we have our say. That is the place where you really do get a say. Of course, it's not foolproof. Some of the politicians can wrap up some pretty awful policies with some other policies that you think are reasonable to vote for. And then, of course, when they get in, they bring out the awful policies mostly. So let's hope that doesn't happen this time. Okay, well, I hope you all vote wisely, carefully, consider the pros and cons, and I hope there are no cons involved, and all the best, and bye for now. Let's try that again.